19 million years ago, the agate fossil beds of western Nebraska were a brutal place to make a living. Severe, prolonged droughts regularly baked the landscape, drying up the few scattered waterholes and turning this slice of the Miocene Plains into a desperate, starving ecosystem where thousands of animals perished from sheer exhaustion. In this punishing environment, a successful hunt was a rare prize. Packs of early bear dogs, known as Daeodon, would exhaust themselves bringing down juvenile prehistoric rhinos, but securing the kill was only half the battle, because waiting in the wings was the Daeodon. This creature didn't need to waste energy running down prey. It practiced kleptopredation, the act of stealing someone else's kill. Standing 6 feet at the shoulder and weighing over 2,000 pounds, it would casually stroll up to a pack of exhausted bear dogs, use its massive bulk to intimidate them, and take the carcass for itself. You've probably heard this animal called a hell pig, but Daeodon actually belongs to an extinct family called Entelodonts, and they aren't pigs at all. Evolutionarily, they are much closer to the whippomorphs. To understand its baseline temperament, look at the modern hippopotamus, highly territorial, aggressive, and incredibly dangerous. To sustain a massive body during a severe drought, a scavenger faces a serious problem. The soft tissue on a carcass rots away or gets stripped by smaller scavengers almost immediately. To survive, the Daeodon had to extract calories from the one thing left behind, the dense, nutrient-rich bone marrow locked inside the skeleton. And these weren't hollow bird bones. The femurs of Miocene rhinos and early camels were essentially thick pillars of solid calcium. Getting inside them was incredibly difficult. Accessing that marrow requires an immense amount of compressive bite force. If a typical terrestrial mammal, even a large bear, tried to bite down hard enough to shatter a rhino femur, the resulting torsional stress and shock waves would instantly fracture its own jaw and brain case. To exploit this untouched food source, the Daeodon couldn't rely on a standard mammalian skull. Over millions of years, its lineage systematically reinforced every weak point in its skeletal structure, evolving into a highly specialized biological battering ram. The centerpiece of this engineering is a skull nearly 3 feet long. It features an isognathous jaw alignment, meaning the upper and lower tooth rows parallel each other perfectly. When a Daeodon clamped down, it created simultaneous high-pressure contact across the entire crushing surface of its teeth. To understand how powerful this is, we can look at the modern standard for a bone-crushing scavenger, the spotted hyena. A hyena has heavily modified jaws designed specifically to crack open the heavy bones left behind by lions. This chart compares mammalian bite forces. A spotted hyena generates 4,500 newtons. The Daeodon dwarfs it, generating 15,000 newtons. This massive force is channeled directly into thick, bulbous posterior premolars, designed to absorb vertical pressure and detonate bone without fracturing. This jaw functioned like industrial demolition equipment, allowing the Daeodon to systematically process the hardest organic material on the plains, turning carcasses into high-fat meals.
A massive jaw creates a secondary mechanical problem. A 90-kilogram skull is simply too heavy for standard neck muscles to support, especially for an animal that needs to roam vast territories to find carrion. The solution was an architectural overhaul of the spine. The Daeodon developed drastically elongated thoracic vertebrae, the bones right above the shoulders. These tall spines acted as a massive leverage point for a thick nuchal ligament, creating a passive suspension siphon, similar to what we see in the muscular hump of an American bison. Then there's the face. The Daeodon is famous for its grotesque, bony cheek flanges extending out from the sides of its head. Their primary job was structural. They provided the necessary surface area to anchor the huge masseter jaw muscles, which stabilized the jaw joint and prevented it from physically dislocating under thousands of newtons of torque. Those flanges also served a secondary defensive purpose. Paleontologists frequently find fossilized Daeodon skulls covered in deep-healed puncture wounds directly on those cheekbones. The flanges acted as built-in armor to protect the vulnerable nasal cavity and brain case during brutal, ritualized face-biting battles with rival Daeodons. Every feature that makes the Daeodon look so bizarre to us today was actually a highly functional, necessary adaptation. It was wearing a suit of heavy biological siege equipment. By 19 million years ago, the Daeodon represented the absolute pinnacle of Entelodont evolution. It had adapted its massive frame and crushing jaw to dominate the specific, violent conditions of the North American savanna. But the environment didn't stay static. As the Miocene progressed, the climate continued to dry out. The dense forests and brush receded, and vast, open grasslands rapidly expanded across the continent. This open terrain introduced a new set of evolutionary pressures. Advanced predators migrating in from Asia began to populate the plains. These new arrivals hunted in highly coordinated packs and relied on speed and agility, traits that suddenly became far more valuable than sheer brute force. The Daeodon had fallen into the apex trap. When an animal hyper-specializes to dominate one highly specific ecological window, it becomes completely vulnerable the moment that window closes. Its heavy cursorial adaptations, like rigid fused lower leg bones and cloven hooves, gave it excellent straight-line efficiency for patrolling huge territories. But those same rigid legs gave it a terrible turning radius, leaving it completely unable to outmaneuver the new Agile pack hunters competing for its food supply. The very traits that made the Daeodon invincible in physical combat, its colossal bulk and heavy bone-crushing skull, became massive liabilities in a food chain that now prioritizes speed and cooperation. As the plains opened up, it simply couldn't keep pace. The Daeodon stands as a terrifying reminder that even the most imposing physical traits have an evolutionary expiration date. For a few million years, it ruled the dry plains as nature's ultimate butcher, until the world simply moved past it.